Hello everyone, it's Dominique, and in the previous video I showed you how to thread your Knook and how to start your foundation chain with 5 stitches. So what I'm going to show you now is how to knit using your Knook. So now that you have your stitches on your Knook, you can push them off onto your cord. Now I'm right-handed, so just try and imitate it with your left hand if possible. And what you want to do is pull the tail piece, wrong end, you want to pull the tail piece of your cord out of your work, and then you want to turn your work like so. So if you're knitting, you want to have your working yarn in behind, just as if you're knitting English style. Okay, so Knook in your right hand, work between your thumb and middle finger, and working yarn across your first finger. In my previous example from the previous video, I am using a size 4mm hook for a tighter tension. I found this made a huge difference, even though I wasn't really wrapping the yarn very tightly around my finger. But in this video I'm using size 5mm, so it's going to look quite loose, and it's not my personal preference, but at least you get an idea of how to knit with your Knook. So what you want to do, there's 2 ways to knit. I know in the Leisure Arts booklet they teach you to insert your Knook from the left into the right of the stitch. So what I mean by that is you go, instead of going this way, right to left, you want to take your Knook and insert it into the stitch from left to right. So this can be a little messy, but I'll teach it both ways. I'm quite used to doing it this way, but that's okay. So then you want to grab your stitch, or your yarn, sorry, and pull it through. And you'll see up close, it looks like a knitted stitch, kind of like a V. So you can continue to go across, inserting from the left into the right, grab the yarn and pull it through. Don't worry too much about where your cord is within your work, because once we're done this row, we're going to pull it out. So the Leisure Arts way is from left side through, grab your yarn, pull it through, and you'll see you have little V's. Now I'm just using 5 stitches as an example. Okay, so you have successfully, hopefully, completed your first row of knitting with your Knook, and this is something perhaps you have now in your hand. You have the stitches on your Knook, you have a long piece of cord, the red cord for me, long piece of cord, working yarn, this is the tail piece of my yarn, I don't have to worry about that, and then the tail piece of my Knook. So what you can do, because there's only 5 stitches on your Knook, it's simply easy to pull the tail end of your Knook in which the hole is closest to. So we're going to pull the cord all the way through. If it helps, I pull it here between the hole and the stitches. Especially when you have more stitches, this is faster for me and easier, but it's not so good of an idea when you have a plastic cord. My dogs have just arrived home. Okay, So you've just completed your first row officially by pulling the cord through, and then what you want to do to get to the next row of your work, pull your stitches onto the cord, pull the tail piece out. You can adjust the lengths however which way you want, and this way you should not lose any stitches. I just have to adjust it here. And then to begin knitting again or purling again, you just turn your work and make sure if you're knitting you put the yarn in behind and begin to knit again. So the other way, which I recently discovered how to knit with your Knook, make sure the yarn is in behind or else you'll create a purl stitch, and we'll talk about that in another video. But make sure the yarn is in behind. Insert your Knook from right to left, grab your yarn and pull it through, and you'll see you still have a V shape, you still have knitted stitches. This is perhaps easier than going from left to right because the cord is not as stiff as a knitting needle, for example. And I also highly recommend that you use a different colored cord that's very contrasting to your work yarn or the yarn that you're using. That way it's easier to find and easier to pull, especially if you have more stitches. It makes it so much easier. So I'm done knitting. They look like knitted stitches. I still have 5. And then I just simply pull the cord through. There you go. That is how you can knit with your Knook. Thanks so much for watching.